Hi guys, in this video I'm going to talk about the modular architecture in SynthMaster 3. So what do we mean by modular? By modular we mean that we can add or remove modules dynamically to our patch that we are creating. SynthMaster basically supports up to 16 layers, and here on the tab view I see the layers as horizontal tabs, and I can easily add new layers by clicking on this cogwheel icon, and I can either add a new one or duplicate an existing one. I will now add some layers to my presets. For instance, I now added 6 layers to my patch. Of course, since the number of layers exceeds the visible screen space, we cannot display all of them. Therefore, we have these arrows to scroll through the layers. I can also click on this icon here and just go to a specific layer easily by using this show menu. Let's go back to layer 1 and solo this layer and make it a sawtooth. Let's just use different waveforms for each one. Square for layer 2, a pulse for layer 3, noise for layer 4, like a white noise. So if I play my preset now, sounds like this. I will continue changing layers, waveforms. Let's have some interesting waveforms. And for layer 7, let's have another interesting waveform. Something like this. Okay, so I have a preset with 7 layers. I'm going to switch to the track view here. Now on the track view, I see similar parameters of the layers all together. For instance, I want to edit the general voice parameters for layers. So I'm just shift clicking this voice button here, and SynthMaster 3 shows me the voice parameters for all layers. Let's hear how this preset sounds. So now I'm going to change the pitches of individual layers. By the way, I used my scroll wheel to change the knob parameters here. I can also right click and set pitch. Set pitch to 3 octaves. Oh, by the way, you can rename your layers. So let's solo this one. What is this? This is, for instance, a triangle. Let's rename triangle. And let's hear this one. This is a pulse. And how about this one? This is noise, white noise. This is a custom waveform. And you can go further like this. And this one is a sawtooth. Okay, let's clear the solo flag. the track view, I want to also explain the keyboard and velocity zones. Since now I created a multi-layer preset, I'm going to switch to the zones view for the layers. Again, I used shift-click to switch to the zones. The keyboard zone specifies at which keyboard range your layer plays. And similarly, the velocity zone specifies at which MIDI velocity ranges your layer plays. For instance, I want this sawtooth, let's solo it, to play at higher octaves. So below C3, it's not gonna play. As you see, I don't hear anything. Now I'm playing C4 and it's playing. At C3, it's not playing anything. And similarly, I can also adjust the upper range. And I can do this for all the layers. Let's, for instance, use this range for the triangle. And for the pulse, let's not play anything above actually C3. Let's make this, let's use the scroll wheel to adjust this. Yeah. And similarly, you can adjust the velocity zones for the layers so that you can play the layers at certain MIDI velocity ranges. And again, I'm going back to the voice tab here. There are further voice parameters here, but I'm going to explain these in my layers video. So I'll go back to the tab view and continue explaining the modular architecture. So I created my multiple layers, and for each layer I can actually add new modules. SynthMaster supports up to 16 layers per preset, and each layer can have up to 32 modules. By module, I mean oscillators, modulators, filters, or waveshapers. Those are called modules. For instance, for my layer 1, let's add a new waveshaper, which is a distortion effect. So I want to add this waveshaper in between the filter 1 and the layer effects. As you see, I dragged and dropped the shaper in between filter 1 and layer effects, and it's added to the end of my signal chain. So now the shaper 1, this wave shaper, comes after filter 1. And here on the routing view, I can continue adding new modules to my layer. As I said, we can have up to 32 modules. Let's, for instance, add a new oscillator. As you see, it's added and connected. And I can continue adding further oscillators. The third one. I can click on the modules to turn them on or off, like this. I can even turn off the layer effects, but since we don't have any effects yet, each module has its own specific context menu. I just right-click on the module to see what we can do with this module. For instance, I can replace this oscillator with another type of oscillator, or I can remove it. These are all possible. To show the modularity, I will now add a modulator. Modulators are basically also oscillators, basic oscillators, but you cannot directly connect them to the output like this. You cannot do that because modulators are mono, whereas the oscillators, filters, and shapers are in stereo. You can think of modulators as audio rate modulation sources or audio rate oscillators that you can use to modulate the phase, the frequency, or the amplitude of oscillators. You can modulate the phase, frequency, and amplitude of oscillators in real time using these audio rate modulators. So I connected this. Let's turn off all of these so that we only hear oscillator 1 and modulator 1. I connected this modulator to my oscillator. Oh, by the way, another useful workflow trick. I'm using my control key, shift key, sorry. I think it was control key, sorry. Yeah, if you control click a module here, or a filter or shaper, the interface, the tabs here switch to the corresponding module. I clicked on filter 1, it displays filter 1. I click on shaper 1, it displays shaper 1. And similarly, if I click on mode 1, it shows me mode 1. And I click on oscillator 1, it shows me oscillator 1. So I'll go back to modulator 1. Let's go back to oscillator 1 and change it to a sine wave. And let's right click on this input of oscillator 1 and make sure it's in phase modulation. Phase modulation is Yamaha DX7 style frequency modulation actually. So let's go to modulator 1. And here, this modulator 1, as I said, you can think of it as an operator for FM synthesis. You can even connect it to itself. I'm going to connect its output to its input. So this symbol, this line here shows that it's fed back to itself. And this feedback amount here controls the feedback. Let's, for instance, use the mod wheel to control the amount of feedback here. And let's also use velocity to control this modulator's volume. So I'm pressing my MIDI controller's key at different velocities now. And now I'm using my mod wheel to change the feedback amount. Let's change this amount. Okay, so I showed you guys how to add new oscillators, modulators, or filters and waveshapers. Now I'm going to add some new modulation sources. For instance, let's add an LFO. to control, let's say, to control the pitch. Let's modulate the pitch with a very small amount, actually. So we create the vibrato effect. Let's make it faster. Let's actually make it a tempo synced. So let's make it triplets. And I'll go back to this modulation. Now here on the mode matrix, I have a source, which is LFO1. There's also another source called via. So basically, if you set something for this via, the source amount is going to be multiplied with this second source. Let's add mod wheel, for instance, here. So basically, when I increase my mod wheel, my vibrato amount for this pitch, layer pitch, will be increased. So I'm going to add another modulation for the LFO. Initially, let's say it has a slower speed, but when I increase the mod wheel, let's make it faster. And let's add a curve like this to the frequency. Yeah, so this curve looks good. Let's also change the curve for the vibrato. And notice how when I change my mod wheel, how we see a dot around this feedback. That dot actually shows the instantaneous value of this feedback parameter, the real-time value, based on the modulations applied. Now I'm going to add a second modulator, which is a scalar, which is actually used to apply sort of wave shaping to other modulation sources. By default, its input is key track, which is the key, the MIDI note that I'm playing. Let's connect the scalar, for instance, to the modulator 1 volume. And I'm going to make this modulation a multiply modulation so that it's not added, but it's multiplied. So let's set the grid to 12, which corresponds to 12 octaves actually. And let's add some points by the double clicking. And let's use tie, so that's we tie. So basically, what this scalar is going to do is, at higher MIDI notes, it's going to lower the amount, FM amount. As you see, I'm pressing my key, and when I change the curve, the sound changes because the modulation amount is changing for that key range. So I also showed how to add modulation sources, and similarly, if you want, you can duplicate existing ones, remove existing ones, or add new ones as you need. And finally, I'm going to show how to add layer effects to an existing layer. So each layer can have up to 6 insert effects. For instance, let's add a chorus effect. By default, my layer goes to my final output. This is the output send amount. There are also 2 parallel effect buses that are global, that are independent of layers. So each layer can send its synth output. It can send its output after the effects are processed to these buses. For instance, let me add a delay for this bus, and let me add a reverb for this bus. So I'm sending my layer to the first bus, which is a delay. And let's also send this layer to my effect bus. And we can do this for all layers actually. We can apply different sends for each of them. And yeah, we can. I can even actually use the macro controls here, for instance. These are also modulation sources. I can control these macros to change the send amounts. So I'm using my first macro. Let's also use the second macro to control the effect bus 2. And let's also change this amount. And I'm gonna assign these knobs to my MIDI controller. It looks like they're already assigned. So I have a complete control S49. Now I'm gonna change the knobs on my controller to control the easy values, the macro values. Looks like this one is not assigned. And let's turn off. And so, yeah, I think this is how you can play with the modular architecture. And finally, I'm going to show one last thing. Let's add a second effect, and let's again solo this layer. Here you can simply click on an effect and drag it onto another one to change their orders. This is especially useful when you have non-linear effects like distortion. And let's save this preset. Modular introduction. And we're done. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the layers, in the layer parameters in general.